Hey everyone, welcome to the replay. If you're here for the replay, let us know in the comments. Welcome Danait and Aleia. It's so great to have you both here today.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Shanna.
I am super excited that you both have created an amazing summit. I'm like counting the days down. So let's just dive into that. Tell us about the summit, when it is, and how we sign up first.
Yeah, so the Hill Roundtables is a 3-day summit on diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism. It starts on Monday. It's a 3-day summit. What I love about it, I love everything about it, of course, but what I love is that it's conversations between people. Most summits are presentations, pre-recorded, some live, and those are really amazing. For a topic like this, we feel like the next step is not listening to it's not reading more books. It's not like doing things like that. It's really like being in the weeds and having these hard conversations. So we're bringing together a diverse group of people to actually have these conversations. And I'm just thrilled that we're getting to experience this and have such a great group of panelists to talk with.
That's amazing. Danait, do you want to tell us how do we sign up?
Yeah, of course. So you can go to thehillcreatives.com/roundtables to sign up and grab your free ticket. Yes, there it is on the screen. And yeah, and join us for any of the ones that you can catch live and be present if possible to kind of listen in. It's a chance for people to kind of get a behind the scenes look at what other business, it's kind of like business owners getting together behind the scenes saying like, hey, what are you doing about, creating a safe space in your community? What are you doing about this thing? What are you doing about that? And it's a chance for all of us to kind of listen into that and listen and say, oh, okay, those are some tools I can pick up and put in my toolbox. So
I'm excited about this because I feel like I'm hearing from yoga teachers all over about so many topics that I see are included in your summit. Like, what about using images? We want to show diversity and inclusion in our yoga stock images. What about cultural appropriation? What about hiring people and creating safe spaces in our yoga places and supporting our yoga students who might be feeling like an incredible amount of stress around times of crisis? So I really want to highlight how this is very applicable for our yoga spaces. Aleia, do you want to talk about how you think it can help yoga studio owners or yoga teachers?
Yeah, so one, it's a lot of the things that people are uncomfortable bringing up in small groups and small circles. If you have one friend who's diverse, if you have a couple friends who are diverse, it's hard to say like, hey, can you please tell me about this one thing right now? It's not always safe to do. So we're like breaking the wall and bringing those conversations in. But how it's specifically going to apply to yoga teachers. When you talk about images, it's really great to have a diverse set of people in your images. But if this is the only thing that you're doing as far as diversity, it's going to come off as hollow. So we want you to know that it starts having diversity in your business. It starts with being a part of your brand values and not just like the visual aspect of it. It's not your content marketing plan. It's really saying, I'm going to make these safe spaces for diverse people. I'm going to bring them I'm going to incorporate them. Maybe I'm going to incorporate them with new music. Maybe I'm going to incorporate them with like, hey, starting from scratch in some classes. Maybe I'm going to use like more language that's more approachable or something like that. That it starts from like thinking about it holistically and not just like, okay, I'm going to put some images on and people will now feel like they're safe and welcome. If that's the only thing that's not going to make you feel safe and welcome.
That's so handy to dig into that because we've had this question over and over again. How can I show that I want a diverse population? And in the yoga world, this means also like, body size, male, female, like so many other aspects of inclusion we want in there. Danait, can you tell us, who is this for? Is this for white people? Is this for people of color? Is this for people who have already done some type of work with this? Who's invited?
No, that's a great question. So in short, it's for everyone. And we even mentioned that it's for people who may have started this journey. I know last year in the summer, a lot of people were awakened to a lot of the injustices, a lot of things going on in the world that they might not have had to experience themselves, and their eyes were being opened to that. And so if you kind of were awakened to that last year or even before, and this has been something you've been doing for such a long time within your business, this is definitely the space for you, because it takes it to the next level. Like Aleia said, it's not just learning from people like a checklist of here's some to-dos, like go read this, but it's more about listening to people saying, oh yeah, I struggle with that, and this is how we did this in our space. Like, oh, as a business owner, I deal with that as well. This is how I've been combating that. This is how I've been working towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's a chance for you to kind of get some new tools in your toolbox that you might not have had before. This is for you if this is something that you're kind of just getting started with and you're wondering like, okay, what do I do? And you're afraid to talk about this with people. You feel uncomfortable. You're apprehensive. This is a safe space to see all types of people talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. And this is for people of color who may not feel safe in certain spaces that they're in. This is a way for them to learn how to advocate for themselves if necessary, or to find community amongst other people who are kind of experiencing the same things. And this is for people who have teams as well. So people who are building teams, who have teams, who want to build a team. This is a place for you to learn about how to do that in an equitable and diverse way. So really, any person who's running a business who wants to make diversity a part of how it is that they show up in the world and part of their brand values, this is for you to come, to listen, to learn, to engage in conversation with other people and find that community.
This is fantastic. Amanda McKinney's here, and Amanda says, it's awesome that you're all going to share actionable tips for business owners who really want to make changes but might not be sure what steps to take. I feel like, and I know this might be frustrating for some people listening who are like, I've been doing this work for years. I do feel like 2020 was a big eye-opener for myself, especially inside of our Facebook group for the Connected Yoga Teacher group. And I feel like it can be fumbly, like my gut reaction or my knee-jerk reaction felt fumbly and not, I don't know, not rooted in some piece of knowledge. So I appreciate that you're bringing all groups together wherever you are. If you're just starting out on this, if you're just hearing about it, or if you've been doing this work for a long time or living through the experience of spaces not being inclusive. I wonder if anyone who's here live or watching the replay, if you have questions. So one question that I have, and either one of you, you're welcome to jump in for this question, or I'd love to hear from both of you, is if we are going to hire, like let's say we want to work with a group of yoga teachers to put a teacher training together, or we want to create a workshop, or we're hiring at our studio, or we want to hire someone to do our graphics. How do we hire and not put on there like, I really want to hire a person of color? That feels like that's not the way to do it. Any thoughts on that?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I did love
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. So one thing I've seen that I do like is when people are applying for posting positions, they put like people of color encouraged to apply, women encouraged to apply. Like that doesn't feel icky for me to see that. But another thing, it's diversity is about like checking off boxes and making sure you have people of color in the room. That's what diversity is. But the real goal is inclusion. So that is meaning that maybe you have to search harder for that person to hire. Maybe you're not hiring in that circle. Maybe you're just not relying on referrals at all because our friends know people who are like us, who and that kind of thing. So that is a big issue that I'm seeing, and I see it with not specifically with yoga. It's not the first place I've seen it. It's really a lot of like corporate culture and startups are stopping referrals. Like they realize that to actually be inclusive when it comes to hiring, that they can't rely on referrals for that. So I think it's about that. It's going to new communities. So if there's a yoga teacher group that's specifically for people of color, it's specifically for like size inclusive people or something like that, it's starting to make those connections. And that's where you're really going to get to that next level of finding these people who don't look like you, who have something else, who are that kind of thing. It's really about having community, having these connections. And I think that's just really important to remember, because it's how you got started here. It's how you got started in your business. You form connections with people. So it's just about forming connections with a new set of people, for sure.
This is amazing. I just want to, Danait, I want you to share for sure, but I want to just, before I lose my train of thought on this, on the podcast, I found this, like, I was like, everyone I'm interviewing is white. Like, it was this stark reality, and it came to light in 2020. And I reached out to a friend of mine, and she just said, it's your circle. Like, you're asking the next person who to interview, and you need to search harder. So I think this goes across so many things. Danait, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Aleia and I have been talking a lot about this because sometimes it can feel like, or it usually is, people are just checking that box, and people of color know when they are the person that has been, oh, well, we got you. Glad, like, and you can feel that they're like, yep, got you in there. And so I really think, seconding what Aleia is saying, really just making it a part of who you are, to widen your circle, to get in touch with other people who don't look like you, to like challenge yourself, to say, am I staying in the same circles of people because it makes me comfortable? How can I get uncomfortable? How can I get around other people who don't look like me, who don't have the same experiences as me? And that is how you're going to find those people. It isn't, if the moment that you're thinking about diversity is at the moment when you're hiring and you're putting your job application together and you're trying to like put that on the page to be like, oh, by the way, which is great to encourage those people. I love that phrasing of encouraging people to apply. But if that's a first moment that you're thinking, then that kind of leans towards that checking a box, right? You're just doing it because you're like, wait, I got to make sure that I include this person, and just so it makes it look diverse. And instead, preempting that by showing up, by widening your circle, by encouraging yourself to get uncomfortable. And when that moment comes, when you're ready to hire, you're going to have people in your circle who you can say, oh yeah, that person is really good at this. And that's really what people who aren't usually recognized are looking for, is not to be picked because, oh, well, you fit our diversity box, but because, you know what, Aleia is a fabulous copywriter, and she's just so good at what she does. And it just naturally happens. Like when Aleia and I were putting together these summits, we weren't sitting there going, well, let's just make sure we have this person here and this person there to make it diverse. We were just like, oh my gosh, that person's so good at this. Let's invite them in. And then when we took a step back and looked at the panels, we were like, this is such a diverse group of people. We're so excited about this. And that's how it should feel. It should feel just like this natural progression of, once you have widened your circle and you get to know other people outside of who you know, it becomes this natural thing that then you're like, oh, wow, look, I have a diverse group of friends who are really good at all sorts of things. And that just feels so good. It feels good for the people being asked to participate, because they're being chosen because of their skill set, and not to fill some sort of quota that you have to be diverse and inclusive, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And I love this. And Amanda was saying, like, this is a great phrase, people of color, women encouraged to apply. A lot of us in the yoga world are women, and we sometimes will want to build that team with women as well. So I think it's nice if we want to highlight, especially if we're working in the corporate world where that's, maybe there aren't as many women applying or people of color applying or in our circles. Rachel's here and says, I'm jumping in a bit late. That's fine, Rachel. You're right on time, and the replay's here for you. But Rachel's asking, how do I build a diverse and inclusive community? And I'm excited for both of you to answer this, because I live in a place that is very white. So how do I build a diverse community, whether it's online or in person, when I feel like I live in a really white land?
Yeah. Well, I love the internet. It definitely helps that. So I do love that we've all come together in this way, and we are internet first in a lot of places. One thing that it was a late add to the Hill Roundtables, but I think it's going to be a really meaningful add. We added discussion guides to go along with our Hill Success Kit, which means that after the conversations happen, you can take these back to your groups and have these same conversations. So the circle that already exists, start having it there, and then give yourself time to reflect on this question. Okay, so is there a time that I shut myself off from diverse people? Is there a time that I did something that just really made it clear that, I want people who are in my circle? I hired in 5 minutes, and I hired my best friend, and I taught her everything, versus looking for that person who already knew something. So thinking about that, I think that's going to be a really important thing to do. It's just like to take stock of where you are, and hold the people close to you accountable. And once you do that, that's when you start stepping out and finding these communities and engaging with them. So one thing we saw last June was a lot of, here are 10 Black creatives who do this thing. Here are 10 Black creatives you can follow. And these lists were nice, but what the real upside of it is like, start engaging with people. That's how you really create relationships. Like, there are people who I form relationships from those lists, or people who found me there, and like I still connect with them, and it's real amazing. That's how you actually find community with people, is like you engage with them, you ask them questions, you don't make assumptions about things. Like, there's no monolithic, there's like no one Black identity, there's no like one Black history, there's no one Latina history, there's no one history of anybody. So it's really about talking to people. It's how you form relationships in general. So just like it's just different here, and you don't have to come at it afraid. Just come at it honest, and come at it truthful, come at it with a good heart, and then you'll be, yeah.
That's so good. Rachel, I wonder if that's helpful for you. Rachel was also saying, like, as I'm growing my social networks, I'm noticing that a lot of my followers are those white women. So I hope this is helpful. And yeah, and the other thing that Rachel is saying here is, I want to create this safe space. So I had a yoga teacher who lives in my area tell me that someone came to her class and shared with the entire class how someone was very offensive to her because of her race. And she said that she's lived here in Canada for a long time, and that's never happened. But she shared it with everyone there. And I feel like that teacher was all of a sudden put in this moment where this person is dealing with trauma and crisis and this awful event. And then the students as well, who have grown to know this person as their close friend. Everyone is in this place. And I mean, she handled it beautifully, but also I think coming to a summit like yours enables us to do that. Or is there anything that you can think of when we're supporting our students? And a lot has happened this year, like a lot has happened in 2020. Is there anything that you can think of? And I realize you're going to dive deep into it in the summit, but anything that you can share with our yoga teachers now?
I think for me, it's creating a space where you feel like you can share these things without feeling like it's uncomfortable or you're doing something wrong by talking about it. And having that space really comes from the person who's the leader, creating that space. And again, it all goes back to, if you're not exposed to people who are different than you, then you won't know how to handle a situation like that. You're going to come into that situation and be taken aback and feel like, oh, we shouldn't talk about this. This is not we can't talk about these things. This is uncomfortable. And you're going to have a reaction that will probably cause more harm than does good. And so creating that space where people feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel like they can share whatever, and they won't be judged. They won't be, their experiences won't be invalidated. Like if someone is sharing their feelings and saying, hey, I felt like I was treated poorly because of my race, not having someone in the group saying, well, did that really happen? Or are you misinterpreting what happened? Just knowing how to hold space for people, which is what we do and it feels different because this is such a topic in our society that's like, we shouldn't be talking about this. Like, don't, like, this isn't a thing. Like, keep this on the down low. Like, you shouldn't talk about it. Those people shouldn't talk about it. But it really is just like holding space for people when someone's having a hard time. What is it that we do? We listen. We don't invalidate their experience. We say that we're here for them. How can I support you? What can I do to help you? What would be best for me to do to support you in this moment? We do that when we have like hard times in our personal, like, and so it's the same thing, and it just feels different. But if we can just be human and see other people as people who are having an experience that maybe we're not privy to, and maybe you won't have that same experience, but just being there, opening up that space, allowing that person to feel like, oh, wow, like this is a safe community where I can share what is going on in my life and not feel like I'm doing something wrong, talking about something I shouldn't be talking about, and they will hold space for me. That's really what it is. People aren't always looking for you to solve their problems and go like this crusade for them. People are usually looking for, and especially as Black people, we're not looking for anyone to like come and save us or like go and do this thing for us. We just want to be heard and seen and like recognized in that moment, in that space, because this is something we deal with all the time, and we're gonna keep moving, we're gonna keep living, we're gonna keep doing our thing. But just having that space, knowing that, hey, this is a community I can talk to honestly and openly, and they'll have my back, they'll listen, they'll validate my experience. That's so important.
Yeah. If I can follow up a little bit on this, especially being saved kind of thing. This, as business owners, we're also often fixing problems. Like if it's in our marketing, if it's in our sales, whatever it is, we're often fixing problems. But this is something as a white person you can't fix by telling someone what they need. So coming from a place of I'm just going to fix everything, I'm going to go run off and do this, that's where you often get into trouble. Is that you've decided what the fix needs to be. You decided that, okay, I need to, I don't know, add rap music to my yoga list. That's a little bit off. Maybe that's not the right fix. Or I need to tell people that they need to use yoga to lose weight or something like that. That's who are out of size. That's not the fix. So telling people what it is that they need without actually listening to them, that's really where most of the problems around diversity come, around inclusion come, is that you've decided what they need versus actually listening. And that's going to push people off. That's going to have people disengage with you. That's going to put you into what people are calling cancel culture, when it's really just holding you accountable. So it's really about listening. It's important. This isn't the same as any problem in your business, because problems in your business can be very specific and very like one-sided. There's one thing, all right, if I do this thing, if I actually check off the box, I might fix this thing. But when it comes to systemic issues that have happened forever and ever and ever, there's ways to address it, but they're not, there's no one fix that's going to do it, and it's not going to do it overnight. And the other thing that I want to mention is that like people of color just learning how to say some of this stuff out loud, because for so long we've been quiet about it because we know nothing's going to happen about it. There are a lot of people who aren't going to listen. So it's not very safe for me often to go talk about this. So we're just finding our feet with saying these things. So it's giving us grace as well as listening to us, like sometimes working these things out, sometimes sharing messages that we didn't realize people aren't ready to hear yet, and that kind of thing. So just like, it's grace on all sides of it. It's grace in yourself. Like you're gonna fumble, but it's how you recover is the really important part.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much to both of you. I just feel like I'm so excited about this more so. And I want to call out as well that I've gotten to know both of you, and you just create this safe space for, I feel so held in, I can ask you any questions, and really dig into this conversation. Now, Rachel is saying, thank you so much for this. Rachel, I'm like, if I stick your comment on here, it hides Aleia. So in my view of my computer, so I'm going to read some of it. But I feel what Rachel is saying here, Rachel saying like, I'm getting comfortable with these conversations, but I feel like I'm bumping into people in my community or in yoga spaces. I just want to call that out. I'm going to add to this, Rachel. I see yoga teachers are like, let's not bring this into the yoga class. Let's just focus on our breath and thinking positive. So do you want to dig into a little bit about that, of like how maybe that's not actually helping the conversation?
Am I going to take this one? Maybe that's not your
You can start.
is a very short answer. If you are speaking to people and they're like, no, I'm not here for it, maybe this isn't your community. Even if they look like you, they had the same life experiences. If they aren't ready to move forward in this, then it's going to be a problem. Like, there's a difference when it's your family and, you have to love them. And but when it's people that you choose to be around, if they choose to ignore something that's really prevalent, that does affect everyone, then maybe you need to find a safer space for yourself, because what are they going to not support you in moving forward? So definitely think about it like that.
And I think for me, it's also just thinking about what are your brand values? Like, as a brander, I'm always like drawn back to like, what are my values? What are my core values? What is like my vision for my company? And if there are people who do not align with that, who are a part of that community, then I'm not doing a good enough job of weeding those people out by being clear about where I stand. And that's always hard to do, especially when you're like, oh, this is a topic that people like, I might get someone messaging me and saying something really horrible, or people are going to be upset with me. And we have that tension with conflict, right? But for people of color, this is just like something we have to experience. We don't get the option to not talk about certain things, to not have certain experiences. We don't have the option to like opt out when someone is saying something that you're like, probably shouldn't say that, person. We don't have the option to opt out of that. We have to experience that. Like, if someone is saying something negative because of how someone looks or who they are or how they identify or what the color of their skin is, they don't have an option to kind of be like, well, I'm not going to talk. They have to experience that. And so as business owners, we have the option to actually stand up for what we believe in and what we want to build our businesses on, because a lot of people get surprised once they have this big following and they're like, oh, I didn't realize so many of my followers were not kind. And it's like, you did, because you never shared your values. You never pointed out, this is what I stand for. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. Because if you're doing that consistently, you're going to weed these people out. And like I was sharing with Shannon a few weeks ago, it is not our job to educate everyone. And if someone doesn't want to learn, personally, I don't feel it's my job to tell you to like me as a person. If you don't like me because of the color of my skin, it's not my job to educate you. If you're willing to listen and learn and open to hearing about my experiences, and we can have a conversation and learn about each other as people and figure out a way that we can grow and build a world that's more equitable for all of us, cool, I'm here for it. But if you're just going to be hateful and you're going to not like, it's not my job. Like, it's really, I have a life to live. I have things to do. I do not have the time to educate any and everyone about whether they should like me or not. And I think that's a problem, is we feel like, well, we have to teach these people. Like, well, but I want to tell them, maybe they just don't understand. And some people aren't going to understand, and that's okay. You just got to bless and release, as I like to bless and release onto your life, and you're going to do what you're going to do, and build that business and brand that's equitable for everyone. So
I love it so much. You taught me this bless and release. We were having this conversation a couple weeks ago, and it has really served me. And I think there's so much of, like, for our yoga teacher listeners here, there is so much yoga philosophy in that. Like, we let go of the attachments that we have, is what I'm hearing. Like, we release that. Rachel saying yes, like this bless and release, and Amanda as well. And I feel like many of the things that both of you are sharing, like Aleia, when you said, or maybe both of you said, it's not our job as white people to like rush in and fix this. But I remember feeling like that's what I want to do. So I appreciate hearing what that feels like. Like, the more stories I hear, the more connections I make, the more I'm here and present for the conversation, even when it feels really uncomfortable to like look back at something that I did a year or two ago and think, oh, why did I react that way? The more I'm here for it, the more I can see what you just said tonight of like, we want to create this world of equity and inclusion, like this whole, like it gives me goosebumps to think that that's what we're all going towards. And the people who aren't like, come along, let's go, who don't feel like, yeah, I'm in for that. We can't focus in there right now. This is amazing. So tell me that the summit is free for anyone who wants to attend, and it begins on Monday. And then I bought the replays because I know this is something I want to come back to. And I feel like there are a couple of options. Can you walk us through what those options are?
Yeah, so the Hill Success Kit is there's a Hill Success Kit and there's a VIP kit. The replays are in both of the kits. I'll just start with the Success Kit. It includes the replays, transcripts of all of the calls, and it includes the discussion guides that I mentioned, which are like really great if you're in yoga teacher training or if you have a small team. They're just ways to continue the conversation. So for each of the different panels, like here are the talking points, here's how you're going to dig deeper inside of yourself, inside of your communities, your teams, to have these conversations and where to go next. And the VIP kit includes, we have some bonuses from our panelists, some really great stuff that's included in there. But also we have these 3 live workshops to help you start implementing things like right away. Like, how do you build a content plan that actually is inclusive, that's based on brand values? And then there's another one that I'm really excited about that is about funding, like how to find funding for your business, which is something that as women, like we are way, way underfunded. Women of color are even less so. So it's how to pitch and get grants that are like non-equity grants so that you can just get money to help fuel your business. So that's what it is. Like the kit has the replays, discussion guides, and then if you get that VIP, that's when you're going to get access to these live workshops. They're really important. So yeah.
That's amazing. So it's thehillcreatives.com and roundtables. You'll see it right there, the button to join. Thank you both for putting this together. I know that this must be a pile of work to organize this many people, but I'm thrilled to see the lineup of topics and guests. Like I was just going through, like, so excited about it. And thank you to everyone who's here live or watching the replay. I want to point out, Rachel had said about something like, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I'm here for those like light bulb moments. And also Rachel said, listening, super important. Been working on that a lot this year. And I want to say to people who have been doing this work for a long time, I realize that it's frustrating. I feel like I want to apologize that, I wasn't listening as well before, and we'll just take the momentum. Like, I feel like I'm here and I'm listening and I'm still learning and I'm still fumbling. So come on, let's all do it. Let's all fumble and learn together. Rachel said, I just signed up. Thank you. I'm so excited. We'll see you there, Rachel. Also, oh, I love this. Funding, content plans, conversations, team building. It is going to be good. I feel like this kind of support I haven't found anywhere else. So I do want to thank you both for creating this. I feel like I had so many questions, and then I was like, I'm just going to bring those to the summit. I'm really excited about it. Is there anything else that you want to leave our yoga teachers with in terms of diving into this work of creating safe, inclusive, diverse spaces? Is there anything that you think will help them before the summit?
Yeah. Actually, I want to circle back to what Rachel was saying earlier about how to she's looking around and she sees that all the people in her circle are white women, people who are coming to classes, and a few ideas that are just tangible that you can kind of go and do on social media is look up, women of color or people of color who are yoga teachers and follow them, start learning from them. Take a class from someone who doesn't look like you, who doesn't teach the same type of yoga as you, who might be from a different part of the world, as you kind of seek those people out. And I think social media makes it so easy to do that. And that becomes a natural progression because so many people that I've met and I've been introduced to that I would have never met in my own circles. I've met on social media by just looking up certain people or just looking for things and searching. And so just a tangible thing that you can do this week is go on your Instagram account, go somewhere, find someone who doesn't look like you, start following them and learning from them. I think that when we're able to open up spaces and start like having circles of people who don't look like us, there's a topic on the panel about how having this in your business increases your business profits as well by having diverse people, which we're so excited to talk about, because it just opens up the door to more conversation. And someone might have an idea that you're like, I would have never thought of that. But because you had this life experience and you come from this background, you sharing that has now opened up a new world of ideas for me and my business. And so just as a tangible idea, that's one thing that you can do this week is go on social, find someone who doesn't look like you, start engaging in their community, talk to them, comment on their things. And just and sign up for a class, go pay them to learn from them, take a yoga class with someone or something like that. And I think that will help you kind of introduce yourself to new people. And 6 months, a year from now, you'll look around and be like, oh, cool. I have a really diverse circle of friends and people in my circle. And it takes that intentional action of wanting to do that. So I hope that's a helpful tip to just kind of get started and dig in this week.
Rachel says, yeah, like I'm going to do an inventory now and see who I'm following and add this to the top of my to-do list. And Amanda, like me, well, I feel like I met you both through different summits or people, and this is the way it works. Amanda said that she met both of you on Instagram. So this is a fantastic way to make new connections. It's like if I was sitting here in Canada and I was like, oh, I'm only going to hang out with Canadian people, it really limits my whole experience of the world. So I love this feeling of let's make those connections. Aleia, what would you add?
As a person, I've taken yoga classes a lot, and like finding ones where I feel safe and comfortable. There's something I have to find some commonality with the teacher. But there have been so many I stepped in and I'm just like, I'm not like anybody here. I am not a size 2. I'm not going to fit in this class. I'll try to make it work, but I don't know if I'm going to come back. So when I can find those spaces, I'm like, all right, I'm there every day. Like that's really meaningful to me. So when you make these spaces that people feel really, really safe, that is just going to go above and beyond. It's going to be really meaningful. And you'll see the changes in your community. You'll see like the growth in your community when you start doing these things and incorporating these things. And there's definitely all, you're going to attract people who are like you. So if you just like expand what you are like, it's going to mean so much to you. So yeah.
I love that. That's so true. I'll actually say, because I went to a bar class once, and the first thing the teacher said was, she's like, if you think you have to be flexible to be in this class, you're definitely wrong. She's like, I'm not flexible at all. So we're just going to do what we're going to do. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, thank God. Because I thought I was going to be like on the floor and everybody is going to be doing all these limber things. And I was like, that's not going to be me. But it's like little things like that. It doesn't have to be like this huge show, but it can just be, just making people feel comfortable by recognizing something that might make people feel uncomfortable, and calling it out. And instantly it's like, oh, thank God that person recognized that I might be feeling that discomfort, and she pointed it out and she made me feel comfortable. And now I can like be fully present in this class and do this thing. So I definitely agree with that.
I love this. There was just a share recently in our Facebook group. I feel like it was Jamie, but if I'm getting your name wrong, I'm sorry. Who said like, I'm going to teach my first class in a gym, and I'm worried about like that I don't look like quote, like the Instagram yogi or like the yogi on the front page of a magazine. And our connected yoga teachers, like that thread is blowing up with people saying like, thank goodness, like we want to see real people. And I love this tonight, the share of like, I'm not flexible. Yeah. Rachel saying, haha, I feel like I do that a lot. I teach runners. I'm always like, you don't need to be able to touch your toes, people. It's still yoga. That's so good. Thank you for this. I am really excited because I see the work that all of our connected yoga teachers are doing in creating safe spaces. We have teachers who are, adding subtitles to their class so that the deaf community can be there. And I know both of you have made this part of the summit of having transcripts and and subtitles. Is that what I call it? And there are just so many ways that we can take care of our communities from these tiny details to make it more accessible. So thank you for doing this work. And also thank you for sharing it, because I know it's a pile of work behind the scenes just to put something like this together, and a pile of work when you're putting something together that has been a conversation that, is long overdue and been happening, and has so many aspects. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're honored. We're honored. We're just really excited to have these conversations. So thank you.
Okay. I have a really technical question. Sorry, Aleia, if I cut you off. How does it work in terms of showing up? Can I show up in my pajamas? Are we on Zoom, or what's happening?
Yeah, so you can show up in your pajamas, certainly. What's going to happen is it's a webinar style, so it'll be the panelists who you'll be seeing, but you can participate in the comments and ask questions and stuff like that. So all pajamas, all there. Yeah. Bottom on, by the way, so yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah,
Thank
come in your
you.
pajamas.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm here for that.
All right, Rachel, we'll end with yours. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you both, and we will see you literally next week.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
will.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.